Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about the broken AI factions/races in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And it is quite a list. It's not just Lizardmen or Tomb Kings or Beastmen. Because Grave Assembly made that post, we are aware of the Beastmen situation. You weren't aware of it until now. What, did you put that in a drawer and forget about it? I mean, I suppose treating Beastmen like a pair of old socks makes sense. That's how Games Workshop treats them. But Beastmen have been broken for almost 3 years now. I think outside of a very short period of time when Immortal Empires came out, Beastmen have been very broken in the game. Of course, that has gotten worse, but let's take a look at how various factions are broken. Now, this is a campaign. I just let 12 turns pass by as Lokier, and I just then used the console command, teleport to do, and other things to be able to do certain things. So, with regards to Beastmen, at the moment, you can see that Malagor has not done anything. He hasn't even taken his initial settlement. He's just been sitting there doing absolutely nothing in this campaign. But that's the post 6.3 situation. If we look at Tarax, he did take the settlement and then he lost his army. So he also has been doing nothing for all this period of time. So they can't recruit. But even when they could recruit a full army, they were just going to waste it. I'm sure anyone who has played Karl Franz has seen the situation where every single campaign you play as Karl Franz, Kazrak just suicides himself against Alfredorf again and again. Now, of course, Beastmen can be an issue to deal with if they work properly. In many ways, they can be frustrating, especially because they destroy everything they have ambushing. So maybe with Beastmen, it's not just a question of fixing them, but also changing how they work under the control of the AI. Unless you're playing them, that's a different discussion. So Beastmen are a big issue as a race, as individual factions. Another big issue is with respect to the Changeling. So the Changeling, what he'll do in every campaign, and he's done so for pretty much all the period of time since Shadows of Change has come out. What the Changeling will do, he'll have his army, he'll recruit a bunch of crap units in it, and that is it. He loses the army, he's gone. He's a non-entity. He'll stay on the map as long as he has cults, but he will do absolutely nothing after that specific point. So Changeling is absolutely a broken faction. Kairos can be dangerous, but the Changeling is a meaningless affair to deal with. Now, I think that was deliberate by Creative Assembly because they understand how the Changeling can be annoying, but then what's the purpose of the faction on campaign map? If you realize he's very annoying to deal with as an AI faction, why is he even on the map? We have a lot of Legendary Lord factions. We don't need every single one of them active unless we're playing them. So that is another issue to talk about. A further AI faction, and broken in a different way, is with respect to the vampire counts. So the problem with vampire counts is they will do things, to be certain. They will recruit units, they will conquer territory, but then they'll kind of just freeze. And the reason they'll freeze is because their individual armies are really bad. They can have a lot of them, but individually they're bad, and I think the AI is making decisions based on like, oh, is my individual army capable of defeating the enemy army? In a lot of cases with vampire counts, it's not. Sometimes they do bring multiple armies and break through the decision paralysis that they're dealing with, but a lot of times they're not doing anything. And the reason I suspect that's happening is because I think the vampire counts AI is relying on the raise dead mechanic. As far as I know, the AI does cheat with respect to raise dead, so they end up getting more units they can recruit for it, and this is why we see so many armies of the vampire counts filled with skeletons and zombies. It's also kind of bizarre to see Gorse just recruiting a bunch of skeletons when he's really the zombie guy. But that is the issue over there. Then you have the Tomb Kings, also broken, and kind of weirdly enough, before 6.3 fully came out, Tomb Kings used to work. Like, the pre-release version, a beta version, actually did function. I know because I played them. But now they're not functioning. So you look at any Tomb King faction, like Cetra's been wiped out. Khalida only has her starting troops. Archon has nothing. They have heroes, so they can't recruit units. So Tomb Kings are even more broken than they were even when 6.3 was initially released in like that PTR beta phase. Lizardmen, broken until they're not. So in this case, Krokgar is working as a faction, but it's kind of just like a weird situation. Sometimes they work, more often than not they don't. There's clearly some trigger issues with respect to it. So it's kind of like a coin flip, whether or not their factions are working or not. But it is dependent on I don't know, some trigger action, maybe a declaration of war or something along those lines. Vampire Coast has the same problem as the Vampire Counts in that they're relying on Raised Dead for their recruitment. I mean, they'll still recruit units from settlements, but they will really exhaust that pool of units they can recruit for Raised Dead. And that just means their armies are very weak individually. It's like constantly dealing with Skaven slaves. And it's kind of really annoying dealing with Vampire Coast and Counts because a lot of the times you might auto-resolve their armies in settlements when they attack a settlement or when you face them in a field battle, but then you don't wipe them out. So it's just really, really frustrating. Of all the races in the game that can actually survive an auto-resolve lost, having to deal with vampires over and over again, the combination of Raised Dead and the fact that they actually keep their force minimally alive after an auto-resolve win, or even a regular battle win, is really really janky and frustrating on that level to deal with as race. Next up, we actually have the Dark Elves. So over here, I've been playing Lokier, but Dark Elves are broken in a different way. So Dark Elves don't have global recruitment. Maybe they should have global recruitment. But the problem with Dark Elves is they rely on Black Ark recruitment. Now, this works if you're a player. It works because okay, I need Black Arcs, I need to keep them alive, I need to rely on them, and you can recruit land units. But the problem for the AI is it likes to recruit units. Every other AI faction likes to recruit units globally because they get a bunch of cheats on that, lower recruitment cost, lower turn duration. That's one of the key aspects of it. But I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you've played against Dark Elves, you've seen the Dreadspear armies. And the reason you see those Dreadspear armies is because Dreadspears are the only unit Dark Elves can recruit from their regular settlements. So maybe the solution for Dark Elves would be to just give the AI factions global recruitment. Not necessarily many slots, but just move away from them recruiting Dreadspears and relying on Black Arcs, or maybe just remove a lot of Black Arcs, severely limit that for AI, because we've had issues with that, and just have them work on global recruitment. Could cause some own issues, so I think that would require some level of testing along those lines, but that would be one of the things to talk about. Now, another faction that we could talk about is Maneater. So Maneater does absolutely nothing in his campaign. He won't declare war on factions for a long time. He will recruit an army, but that's kind of, he'll recruit an army, maybe a couple more stuff, but generally speaking, it's just going to be an army. He's generally not going to do things against other factions. He will take territory if he does see that it's empty, but he's never going to do anything on the campaign map for a very, very long time. Plus the fact that he's limited in diplomacy. The thing that's broken with Maneater is also interacting with him. So you can't form alliances, you can't offer him contracts. I think it would be cool if you were playing a campaign as another faction and you could just be like, okay, here's a contract for Maneater to deal with things, and you could take advantage of that. But clearly that's a faction that CA didn't put a lot of effort in towards actually making his AI work. Then we have Chaos Dwarves. Oh yeah, Chaos Dwarves. So the problem with Chaos Dwarves is the fact that if I just teleport, no, I'll just form an alliance with them. So with Chaos Dwarves, the issue is, and I'm sure a lot of people have encountered this issue, the armies they recruit will look like this, right? So they'll recruit a lot of laborers, they'll recruit a lot of hobgoblins potentially, but you'll see a lot of laborers. Now, if you're playing a Chaos Dwarf campaign, you will do so. You will recruit hobgoblins mainly, but a lot of the time, the point of that is to actually get the good units. Now, the problem is the AI will not think like that. They'll recruit those laborers, they'll do absolutely nothing with them because they don't have strength, so they'll reach the decision paralysis, and that is something that affects them. And by the time they actually start recruiting good units, they've kind of already lost because other factions have wiped them out. So Chaos Dwarves can be good, can work, but a lot of times they won't work in a campaign setting. And then we have Malakai Maccason. So Malakai, ever since Thrones Decay, so this is why this is such a long-standing issue, Malakai has been in this kind of situation where he also does nothing. Now, he will at least recruit troops, or at least he was supposed to. So this is still turn 12, but you can see that he's just kind of been sitting there. So let me just form a line to see what he has. That's why I'm doing that. So with Malakai, he will recruit troops, he will recruit units from his settlement and from his horde, but the problem is he's just not going to do anything. Like, Malakai could be in a position under AI control to really dominate this entire area. And sometimes you do see him do so, but a lot of the time, because he has dwarves are really powerful, he would wipe the floor with Norskai and Chaos easily under AI control with like 4 stacks of dwarf warriors. But he's not using those stacks. He's not using those armies. He's being very, very passive. Now, this is something we tolerated, obviously, because if you were not playing a Malakai campaign and you were dealing with a campaign over here, you kind of didn't want Malakai to take a lot of shit, because fighting dwarves is painful. But it is obviously a broken aspect of the game that we have been dealing with his faction not working. Again, it's a dynamic that kind of works in your favor if you're playing a campaign over there, but still a broken affair. Then we have Warriors of Chaos. Now, Warriors of Chaos, they don't use the vassal system well. They struggle to gain dark fortresses. Be'lakor is kind of like a troll. He attacks a lot of people. Sure, pretty much every faction around him, but he's never going to take dark fortresses. He's never really going to expand territory. He's not going to vassalize. He's not using a lot of power. Inherent issue for Warriors of Chaos is the fact that they are not using the warband upgrade system ever. And modders have been able to figure out how to do that. Now, of course, mods are brute forcing things, so it's not necessarily what developers should follow, but just shows you that Creative Assembly hasn't cared to fix this issue. Warriors of Chaos can be very dangerous if they are allowed to grow to become powerful, but right now in a campaign they're just a joke because, yeah, outside of like Archeon showing up with an entire stack of regiments of renown, not regular units, and maybe whatever random units he gets through recruitment in his Dark Fortress provinces, which does happen, any Warriors of Chaos faction is just not really going to have good armies. They're going to have marauders. They're going to have whatever units they can recruit. So they're using warband recruitment. They're not using the warband upgrade system. Like, you look at this, like Valka should have Chosen in this army, for instance. She has Chaos Warriors, not Chosen. So that is a critical issue that we see with Warriors of Chaos. And I think that would roughly be it. I mean, there's other problems with other AI factions and so on and so forth, but these are the main ones I would highlight. So no, it's not just Tomb Kings and Lizardmen and Beastmen AI, it's a lot of different moving parts that they need to fix on this. Costin, signing out.